Hello, I'm Bill O'Donnell, and welcome to another program on spirituality. I'm actually very excited today to share with you something that's close to my heart and to these people, fine people here today, and that is we're here to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the celebration. Now you say, what's the celebration? Well, it's not exactly Catholic, Jewish, or Protestant. It's something that has brought members from all those denominations and all those backgrounds together here in Santa Fe, and it's been a lovely experience for me to be a member of that as well. And in that end, I want to introduce my guests. To my immediate left, this is Diana James, Will Sims, and Dottie Hills, and we're all here representing Celebration today, which is a new thing in the consciousness, I would say, of people when they have been through other religious backgrounds, and now they come together to celebrate God's love. But anyhow, welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this 20th anniversary, there was a great article I want to bring it to your attention in the New Mexican on Sunday, May 1st, 2011. It's wonderful. I don't know how much of this you'll be able to see, but a group of people have gotten together to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Celebration. And to tell us the history of this group, I turn it over to Will Sims and give a little background on Will. Will is, has a great history in New Mexico and Santa Fe as a radio man. I learned my radio from him, but tell us a bit about yourself and what Celebration is to those people at home who don't know.
Celebration to me is very unusual in that we have no real leader. There's no priest, no guru, no minister. We are, if you will, leaderless. And it's worked for 20 years. People who determined that they were going to carry on without a minister. Now, we had a minister for 3 years, Reverend Carol Bell Knight, but she moved away 20 years ago. And the thought was at the time that maybe the celebration would just go away. But 30 of us at the time who were part of her church decided to carry on by ourselves without a minister, without a leader. And it's worked quite well in that, for example, anyone can go to council once a month. No election of that. You just come and you are a member of the Council of Celebration. And almost anyone who wants to can participate in the Sunday service. If you want to do a reading or the meditation or the talk, you just sign up and you are called upon to do that. It's a very participatory organization. A Sunday morning gathering, a joyous gathering. We sing a lot. We have a good time. I brought a guest last Sunday, and after the service was over, he said, "That's a rowdy group."
And that makes everybody happy. Look, everybody smiled on that one. Rowdy in the positive sense of the word. Yeah, that's great. I would like to share that just the history of that. Carol Bell Knight was the Church of Religious Science minister a long time here in Santa Fe before, so it was kind of came out a new thought in a way of that tradition.
Oh, sure.
And all of us have come from different backgrounds. I mean, I'm actually a practicing Catholic today. And what was your background, Diana?
Very young in life, in a church in Wichita, Kansas. It was a Methodist church, and I used to watch, as a little 4-year-old kid, the church just fill up with love because of the minister, Joseph Riley Burns. Still remember his name. He spoke about a God that had a sense of humor. There was a lot of laughter. And that congregation took care of each other. It was just a matter of course that on a day-to-day basis, we took care of each other. Then we moved to California, and my parents went from church to church to church, trying to find a church with that kind of community spirit. And when they didn't find one, they stopped taking us. So I grew up with my parents telling me God is love, and God is in the trees and in the rocks and the water and the love we have for each other. So that's basically my background.
And Will, what was your background originally?
Grew up a Presbyterian, actually in Albuquerque. Went there a long time, but I left that kind of organized church when I was about 18 or 19. I'd been in the youth choir, and I graduated high school, and they said I had to go to the adult choir. I didn't feel like going to that. Old people like I am now, you know. And I left church, and actually, I think for a little while I considered myself an atheist. Then in my mid-20s, I was more of an agnostic. And then in my early 30s, I began a search for the truth, or my truth, and kind of got away from organized religion. I read a lot of books and went to a lot of seminars, and came out of that wanting a spiritual community, and that's when I joined Carol Bell Knight's Religious Science Church. And then when she started her own celebration, I followed her to the celebration and was there at the very first meeting on Sunday 23 years ago.
That's great. Dottie, how about you? What was your background?
As a young child, I was a Southern Baptist. Not officially, I went there, and for a few years. And then when I was just beginning teenage years, I took catechism with my mother and my sister, and they joined the church, and I did not. I went with them, but I didn't join. And then when I came to Santa Fe, within a year or so, I found the Dispensable Church.
Hugh Prather?
Hugh Prather's Dispensable Church. He talks about how that he left after, I think it was 3 years, and he did, but they carried on through the 80s until about 89, after which I was desperate. I had become a church person by then, and I was desperately looking around for someone else. And I remember Hugh saying, well, Carol Bell Knight was a friend of his, and they both came out of religious science. So she was opening up this thing that she had in town, and I went there, which became the Celebration.
And we want to take a moment to honor those people, because I think Hugh just passed away this year, within the last year, and Carol Bell died just a couple of years ago, I think, and we got to see her to come back. And my story was, when I came to Santa Fe, my first church service was the Church of Religious Science with Carol Bell Knight at the Women's Club. And then from there, the Lord had other plans for me. He took me to the Benedictine Monastery to become a Benedictine postulate there for over a year. And when I came back, I got to be immersed into another level of Catholicism, which I never had gotten before that. And but the kind of the social aspect of Celebration and the people that I met over time, because we've been at so many places, really spoke to me. And the singing was great. And I hadn't sung in a long time. I did join the choir when I was a monk for a while, but then when I came out, I sort of missed that. And even though I became a member of the St. Francis Cathedral Basilica and carried on with Catholicism, I found myself socially being drawn to Celebration. And because I'm like a Seventh-day Adventist Catholic, I go on Saturday night at the Vigil Mass and I sing in the choir with Father Preto at San Ysidro. There's something about that, because a lot of my friends go there, and there's something about the relaxation or letting go of all the kind of the structure of typical church concerns, and the history of every church has some, shall we say, dark corners that aren't, shall we say, as enlightening. There's not much to celebrate there, but at Celebration we always come back to that through singing positive messages that people bring, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. But I think it's important to acknowledge our forebears where they came. But somebody else tell us a little more about some of the other people you met. Or Dottie, for you, told me earlier about what you liked about the Celebration services.
The sharing time. Excuse me. Yes, the sharing, when people share, I think, oh yes, that's me too. When I do readings at the Celebration, I always go to a magazine called The Sun that comes out of North Carolina. And there's a feature in there called Readers Write, and readers write in on a subject and they talk about their lives. And this thing, the sharing at the Celebration, is so much like the Readers Write column. It's people sharing their deepest feelings and thoughts, and it's so helpful to me. I guess it is to other folks too. But for me, certainly, I'm the only one I can speak about. It has given me so much knowledge. It's like I've practically done a psychoanalysis course. I feel like I've done therapeutic work through this.
Let me just explain that about 15 minutes of every service, every Sunday, is dedicated to personal sharing. And anyone can speak. Just raise your hand, and you're called upon to share anything you want. Now, hopefully it's spiritual in nature, something you're going through, a difficulty, a challenge, whatever, but you are able to listen, you let your heart out and have everyone hear you. It's a wonderful part of our service, I think, the personal sharing.
How about you, Diana? What comes to mind first or foremost?
Well, the first time I went to Celebration, it was the personal sharing. Well, it was everything. It was, one, the fact that there's no minister. I loved that because there was nothing in between the people and God. It was just everyone was speaking about their direct relationship to spirit, and I loved that. I loved the music. That was just great. We have all sorts of music, including Grateful Dead songs in our songbook. It's just, I love the diversity, I guess, is what first struck me. Not only just the amazing feeling in that first service I attended of diversity, but in the personal sharing, I think Harriet got up and was teary-eyed and talking about that she was going to be a grandmother, and then I think Landa Pretty got up and talked about being a single woman, and Sienna got up and talked about her breakup with Richard and all the issues that brought up, and I just went, you know what, these are real people, and I've always been real sensitive to energy. What I felt in the room was an amazing degree of acceptance of people's differences and appreciating them because of the differences, not just tolerating them. Like I've felt in a lot of different church gatherings, these people were happy that there were, well, like Miranda. We all remember Miranda, who is now deceased, but I used to call Miranda the violet neon thread in the tapestry of celebration, because she was just so unique and out there, and we loved her. So that's what I paid attention to, is the feeling, again, from my very first church experience. I went, oh my gosh, this room is filling up with love. And it's all different kinds of expressions and experiences of people and humanity and God. There was no gap between what is spiritual and what is our everyday life, and that was the other thing I loved. We celebrated all of it.
I have to comment, Miranda would have loved that line that you just said, but I have to say, even our camera people, both Richard and Wendy, have been to Celebration, and Wendy can tell the story where Miranda was chasing me around, driving me crazy. I had to hide behind Wendy to keep her from, because people do get a little carried away from time to time, and because for the first time, I think a lot of people are heard there. They have an opportunity. We will, without giving them like the talking stick, the proverbial talking stick, there is that time of respect for people hearing it. And sometimes it does drive you nuts. I mean, what people are sharing, it does get you, but all in all, it's a blessing to have. We think about democracy in this country and the freedom of speech. I think we practice that.
We practice that.
Indeed.
And we're not perfect at it.
Yeah.
And if something gets to you, it seems
Yeah.
to me you've got to examine yourself.
Yeah.
If you're bothered by something that's going on, you don't have to go there. You have to look within your own heart and say, why does that bother me? And over the years, I've learned that nothing bothers me hardly. I love it all. It just happens, you don't need judgment there. A lot of camaraderie, what Diana was talking about. We are a hugging group. We all hug each other every Sunday. And it's so unlike other churches. People come in, they sit down, they're talked at often, and they just sit
And
quietly.
they have to behave themselves.
Yeah. Not us. We participate. We get involved. We hug. We have a time at the beginning of the service where they play some music and we go around and say hello to each other and hug each other and say hello and hi and that kind of thing. It's just so different. It's just than other churches.
I think I learned hugging at the celebration.
Yeah. And the retreats have been wonderful too, and they've gone to places where your old stomping grounds, to Ghost Ranch a number of times.
Yes, indeed. Yes. I was one of the first people invited in the youth group at the Presbyterian Church to go convert Ghost Ranch from a working cattle ranch to a retreat center. I was there banging and hammering and doing all that kinds of stuff long ago.
When was that? When you were a kid?
Gosh, when I was a young man. I was about 15, 16 years old when that happened. The ranch had been donated to the Presbyterian Church USA, but they called upon local Presbyterian churches to go fix it up, to convert it to a retreat center. And I've gone back many, many times. And most of our retreats of the celebration have been at Ghost Ranch.
That's true.
Some other places as well, but mainly at Ghost Ranch.
We've been to Hummingbird, we've been to
Ranch.
Sunrise Ranch, we've been to the Benedictine
Been
Monastery in Pecos.
once, yeah.
Thanks to
Glorietta once.
Glorietta,
The Baptist Center once, yes, indeed. Lots of places.
And we've checked out others. I know I've been on some of those road trips to go look and see if this is an adequate place for us. And what else have we done? And the groups that have come out of there, well, the music. Let's go back to the music for a minute, because that was one that was close to my heart. I know most of us have sang in that choir at one time or another. and they performed like once a month or at special occasions or something. And I remember Will Sims and I actually got to serenade Archbishop Michael Sheehan at the 20th anniversary of the Institute for Spirituality with a song that Christopher Murphy brought, and Virginia helped, and there were the other two people with us, and so we've actually sang at celebration experiences.
Yes, indeed. It was sung last Sunday.
It was, oh great.
Yes, indeed,
Yeah.
at our 20th anniversary service. We sang the song, I think you mean, when it's all been said
That's
and
right.
done. Yes,
And it's one of those things that I'll never get the first time after Virginia had taught me, and so the three of us were together, Christopher and I, and the three of us just started singing. It stopped a party. It had that kind of power. I think it was written by Robin Marks from Northern Ireland. But just those songs usually, our songbook is eclectic. People have brought different songs in. Periodically they'll do things. And then I think one of my favorite parts of the service, everybody loves this, is the candlelight ceremony. Who wants to say something about that?
Well, I think it's called the candlelight communion. And I thought back to my days of what it was like in the Catholic Church, the communion. Ours is just as much, as far as I'm concerned, a communion, the candlelight. As a matter of fact, everybody lights a candle for whatever their heart wants, for the heart, where the heart takes them. And I used to light I used to light 2 candles. I still light 2 candles, but
Me too.
but one was for whatever else was the rest of the world, and the other one was for my son David, because he needed one all by himself. And even if the world could get by on the rest of one, David needed one by himself. And he's no longer with us, but I still light a candle for him now and then.
Yeah. Somebody talk about the different people, the different backgrounds, the people you've met there. I remember when I gave a talk and I was just sort of trying to warm up to the audience and trying to figure out who we were and what we were about, and I said, just out of curiosity, how many here are practicing Catholics? One woman who was visiting raised her hand. I said, we'll have to talk later. And then I said, how many former Catholics? And there must have been about 70 people there, and almost a third raised their hand, which was quite a surprise to me. And then I said, well, how many former Protestants are there? And even a few more, as many or more raised their hands. And so I said, I'm on a roll now. How many of the chosen people, meaning the Jewish? And almost a third raised their hand, which surprised me. But when you think about it, and those were just the 3 that I asked about, how many different backgrounds there are. And I literally woke up thinking about this morning. I know that most of us have been through many relationships of one kind or another, marriage or otherwise. People have gone on. And, you know, in some churches, if you happen to have been divorced or you've been some scandal in your life, you may not be accepted in a lot of mainline churches. So, but here, I think, here's a place, I call it an oasis in the desert, where people, we've all come, most of us from everywhere else. Will was the only guy, the local guy of this group of New Mexico, and we have a place where there's no judgment, there's no, you could have been in jail before, and some have. You could have been a minister somewhere, and some have. You know, you name it, and they've been there and done that, and now they're here. Isn't that an interesting phenomena?
I think that brings me to one of the things I love about celebration. And I think a lot of us share the feeling that became dissatisfied with any one path, saying it was the only one, and if you don't believe it, we're going to kill you for it. Okay?
Well,
I mean, and that is
or ostracize you or something.
ostracize you. I mean, how many wars and how many people have died in the name of God? So when I walked in the first time and saw that on the altar, and I didn't see it close up until I came up for the candlelight communion, and saw there was a Buddha, and there was something, you know, representing the Jewish faith, and there was something representing the Christian faith, and I just went, you know what, to me, this is where we need to go. We need to go as a human family to practice including everybody and honoring and respecting them.
I believe in God, but I don't believe in religion. No offense. I do not believe in religion. Organized spirituality is not for me. I have my own connection with God, and I just don't need any organization of that. And it's important for me to say that I'm not really a Christian. I'm a Christian, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Hindu, I'm an everything. And I love the fact that I can say that and be that without being narrowed into some specific religion with its rules and dogma and all the rest. And we don't have that in the celebration.
I'm a celebrationist.
There you go, indeed. Sometimes called celebrants.
Yeah.
Sometimes they were described as being non-denominational, and I've lately said that we're actually all denominational.
There you go.
It's
Yes.
more accurate.
Right.
Because I remember the day a man came and his topic was atheism. And we're all just
We
listening
listen.
to what he had to say.
Sure,
and,
sure. Instead of a church, I've often called it an unchurch. Remember the uncola? Well, we're sort of the unchurch.
That's true. And yet, when we have a big celebration like Christmas, I know at least 3 of us have done the Christmas reading.
Sure.
And usually it's from out of the Bible, and
Sure.
we have that going. But since I've been doing it, I also start with the Quran, because there's more in the Quran about Mary and Jesus, and the affirmation of the story of the virgin birth. It's done in here as a statement of fact within and a tenet of Islam. Most people didn't know that. Well, if you read a few books, you'll find a few things out. And also we have people who, many of the people are big fans of the Course in Miracles, which
Yes.
is another way of expressing yourself and to get to the Christian message in its essence without the historical context. And there's controversy about it. But you know what? It's not a controversy at the celebration. People aren't worried about that.
Exactly.
to have
be
lively
concerned.
discussions.
Yeah. But anyhow, one thing I wanted to mention, though, as again I started to say about the candlelight, after that, we're doing that as we're singing some set songs which are delightful. And now they're all second nature to us because we all know them, but we have them there for people to sing. And I wish I had the book right here. I'd tell you what those songs were, but music is a big part of it. Let me give you an example. Here's a recent celebration gazette. It starts off with the greeter opening, and we all sing "It's in Every One of Us," which I bet all of us could break into.
We could.
Welcome, invocation, we have a host greeting one another, then a group song, announcements, another group song, and then statement and silence, where we take a moment to collect ourselves, then an inspirational reading. That is the choice of that person who signed up that day, then special music if there is some from the choir, and then a meditation, which is, I've experienced every kind of meditation at celebration, from total silence to led all the way through. Then the celebration prayer, which is a takeoff of the Lord's Prayer.
We kind of rewrote the Lord's Prayer.
What's the history of that, Will?
Well, you know, some of us weren't really that Christian, and here we were singing, as Carol Bell Knight did.
Yeah.
We sang the original Lord's Prayer every Sunday. It was part of our inheritance from her.
Right.
But over time, people were thinking, you know, we don't necessarily want those specific words, so let's kind of rewrite it. A committee was formed, and we met for a long time, weeks and weeks and weeks, until we finally figured out what the new words would be. We haven't changed all of them, but we've changed a few of the words of the Lord's Prayer and sing it, and we call it the celebration prayer. Same tune, but with slightly, it's been edited by the celebration.
Yeah, it's interesting. I bring here for reference for those celebrations who see this. If you get a hold of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, there's 25 pages on the Lord's Prayer if you want to see what the original one had to say. But it's something that has become part of the tradition here, and I don't consider it blasphemous or whatever. But and I don't know where it came from, but everybody seems to like it. Some stand for that. Some remain
sit,
seated.
For
And
example, the first words of the original
Yeah.
Lord's Prayer are "Our Father."
Yeah.
We didn't want to do that because we don't know that it's necessarily masculine. God is all. God is masculine and feminine. So our first word is Creator.
Yeah.
It can be, you know, homogeneous, whatever you
That's
want,
true.
but it isn't necessarily male or female.
Yeah. I quite frankly thought during the Atkins thing that we're going to change our daily bread to our daily protein or something like that. I think it could have
We
happened.
left that line in.
I know, but I think that's a carbohydrate that we should talk about. You know, the modern bread, not much protein. And then it goes on to that we have a speaker for 20 minutes.
Always different every
Yep.
Sunday.
More special.
Not the same priest every Sunday.
That's true. That's
somebody
true. Could be
different
any.
every week. Yes.
That's right. For Easter, I think it was Christine Warren talking about the cosmic Christ, as I recall.
And the 20th anniversary were 6 different people
Yeah.
expressing their history in the celebration. Yeah, that was.
And then a welcoming of visitors, which is nice. People come up and say where they're from. And celebration cares, just in a few minutes. I know you're involved with the prayer ministry there. Talk about that. That's a relatively new innovation and wonderful. You're involved in that too, I think.
Celebration Cares.
Yeah.
Diana started Celebration Cares.
And Will came up with the name for it.
Okay.
because I had reached a crisis with celebration in that I needed help moving one day, and I opened up the Gazette, and for the first time, and I think only time, it said we weren't allowed to ask for help moving during personal sharing. And I went, oh my gosh, and I remembered the original Methodist Church and said, I want a spiritual community where we take care of each other outside of just Sunday service. And that's how Celebration Cares was born, because I went to the council and said, I need more, and this is what I would like.
And they changed it again, didn't
Yes.
they? That's the beauty of it. They have a meeting every month, and if you show up, you're now on the
Council.
You're on the council, and you can vote to change whatever you
Exactly.
like. And we've done that.
Determined by consensus.
Yes.
We don't vote. We don't raise our hands and it's 4 against 5. Everyone comes to consensus.
Right.
When we leave that meeting, we're all in accord.
Right. And then we go on and we do pass the basket. There's no obligation, but
sure,
people contribute. That's the only way it goes on. And then, it must be our secrets, because on the celebration, nothing about this candlelight at the end, but then we sing those songs and we hold hands and sing
in a
these
circle.
songs. And the last one, it starts with On Eagle's Wings, I think.
Yes.
And then ends with, Alleluia. And then
From
at the very
Buckle Bells Canon.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
That used to be the theme for Spirituality TV, by the way, for many years. And then at the end, the host, says something to send us forward, and then the lights come on. And, people feel good about it themselves after having been there. So we've got a couple minutes left only. What didn't we say that we should mention?
Everybody helps. I think
right.
that we need to say there is a facilitation team, but we set it up. We take actually a corporate meeting space and we turn it into something sacred every week. And then we have our service, and it's all us doing all the different parts, and then we also all take it down. So
The neat thing about being a facilitator of the celebration is all you have to do is say, I want to be a facilitator. Not elected, not selected. You just say, I want to help. There you are. You are
and
a
we
facilitator.
say, thank you.
Yes, yes, yes.
And someone said once that they didn't feel a part of the celebration, and someone else told them, well, what you have to do is get in there and help. And immediately you're one of us.
Exactly.
And just in the minute we have left, I've got it here, so I'm going to list some of the names of people who are very active today. People like David Raymer, he does audio recordings. They're all volunteers and some pay. Norman Scull is the business manager and facilities liaison. Child care, Evelyn Gonzalez. Choir director, Lorianne Fiorentino. Communications, Ken Shaw. Diane DeLorean. Flowers for the Altar, Sally Scull. Gazette, Diane DeLorean again. We've got the greeter cord Miranda, but she's not with us anymore. Rhonda Torch, librarian. Ken Shaw, mailing list. Reading and meditation sign up. Christopher Murphy, musical director on hiatus. Virginia Gilstrap, who's our new gal filling in.
Lydia Clark.
Exactly, thank you. And Dottie Hill, prayer ministry. Speaker sign up. Ken Shaw, workshop coordinator. Shelley Campbell. Those are just some current names of people who are active and involved, and facilitators change every year. So it's been a delight. We've run out of time. I know it went fast. I want to thank you all for viewing. Thank you guys for coming in. For those who don't know anything about it, watch the credits. The website will be there. You can find anything else out.
We meet at NEA New Mexico on Boltoff Road, 10:30 every Sunday morning. Come and be with us.
Great. With that, God bless you. Thanks to our director, Marshall, our people behind the scene, Richard and Wendy, George in the background. Thank you for viewing. Stay tuned next week for another program on spirituality.